When the millionaire challenged the delivery girl to translate, his shocking secret was revealed. Sarah maneuvered her bicycle through Maplewood's tranquil streets, the sunlight glinting off the quaint storefronts, pressing down on her as if the weight of her world were somehow bound to the tires. Today her regular route felt different. She'd often dreamt of a world where deliveries didn't loom like dark clouds above her. Instead, she balanced the job of a delivery girl with being a caretaker, a role thrust upon her too soon after her parents left. As she approached Ethan Blake's imposing mansion, tall shadows casting over her, it filled her with a foreboding sense of dread. The mere presence of the reclusive millionaire made her pulse quicken. Ethan was notorious for his ruthless dealings, his empire built on the backs of workers like her. Yet here she was, face to face with the man who had turned their town's fortunes to dust. Potholes and peeling paint surrounded the lavish property he claimed as his own. She didn't want to be here, but bills to pay for her siblings chased her like unwelcome ghosts. When the door opened, Ethan stood before her, arms crossed, eyes cold as steel. Scruffy delivery outfit and the weariness in her eyes, he seemed to dismiss her instantly. What did she know? Clearly, he viewed her as just another cog in his vast machine. But then he revealed an ancient family document, swirling emblematic symbols, and challenged her to translate it. Intrigued by her defiance, his voice held an unexpected warmth, though judgment lingered in every syllable. Something deep and yearning sparked within her. Could she do this? Inside, as she studied the symbols, unfamiliar emotions intertwined, hope and doubt. Each complex symbol pricked at her insecurities. The challenges of raising her 3 siblings amid bills clashing against dreams flooded her mind. The job was rut, and yet here was a chance, a flicker of purpose illuminating the darkness around them. But then, the realization struck. If she pursued this and he turned against her, what would it mean for her family's survival? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they spent time together, the layers of their lives began to peel back. Shared stories revealed unspoken truths. She wasn't just a delivery girl, she was a guardian, a translator, a touchstone for change in a world built to crush her spirit. Her thoughts swirled like autumn leaves caught in an unseen breeze, intoxicating yet terrifying. But just as warmth blossomed between them, her fingertips brushed against the darker reality. Evidence of Ethan's latest business venture loomed ominously in the shadows, its promise of wealth camouflaged by potential ruin for families like hers. Dread pooled in her stomach. The discovery was a bitter reminder of her allegiance to her hometown and the enduring scars of loss. Should she shield this burgeoning friendship or sacrifice it for the greater good of Maplewood? Would she find the voice and strength to confront this reality, or would fear bind her tongue? Time ticked mercilessly, pulling her deeper into a chasm. As the weight of the document pressed against her soul, uncertainty gnawed at her, relentless. Should loyalty or justice guide her hand? Just then, Ethan's world veered sharply, revealing the burdens of wealth cloaked in neglect. The power within those symbols sent shivers down her spine. As dusk settled around them, her heart raced to meet the looming decision. Possibility intertwined with apprehension. What would it mean for her siblings and their fractured lives if she chose to fight? The swirling symbols on the document, their secrets dancing just out of reach, seemed to mock her insecurities. Sarah's heart raced as she picked through the intricate patterns, her mind a battlefield between ambition and trepidation. The challenge Ethan had laid before her was more than mere translation. It encompassed the potential reshaping of her life, and those of her siblings. Concentrating deeply, she delved into the roots of the language, recalling fragments of her past, the fleeting moments of learning she had stolen from dusty books in the library. Each symbol resonated with stories, tales of triumph, loss and resilience that echoed within her. Somewhere beneath her surface, confidence was beginning to flicker. It felt tenuous, but she clung to it, coaxing it to grow. Was this newfound strength arising from her attraction to Ethan, a complicated man encased in layers of charisma and complexity? As she turned her focus on translating, Sarah realized Ethan was watching her closely, scrutinizing her every move. The heat of his gaze kindled a determination she never knew she possessed. She bit her lip, her fingers tracing a particularly intricate symbol, its meaning swirling with possibilities. Could these be the keys to unravel not just this document, but the deeper truths of Ethan's dealings? The thought struck her like lightning, igniting a sense of purpose. I think this means to cultivate and, she hesitated, to flourish. As the words tumbled from her lips, a realization washed over her. She wasn't just unlocking a family history. She was conjuring the very essence of survival in her own life. Ethan leaned closer, an eyebrow raised in curiosity. Interesting interpretation. But what are you really after, Sarah? There's a precarious balance here, and you're taking quite a risk. His tone was teasing, yet there was an underlying seriousness that prickled her skin. The boldness she felt wavered under his scrutiny. I'm not here to play games, she replied, the edge in her voice surprising even herself. I want to understand. I want to know if this can help me protect what matters most to me. That moment cracked a barrier between them. For the first time, Sarah saw something flicker in Ethan's well-guarded demeanor. A vulnerability, perhaps. It was a pause filled with contemplation, and something shifted. A mutual understanding sparked, igniting the air around them with tension, and she dared to wonder if there was more than just business behind his motives. But the shadows of Ethan's empire loomed larger, casting doubts over their newfound connection. Her instincts screamed warnings about the depths of his world, and she fought the urge to retreat into the safety of her familiar burdens. Questions swarmed in her mind. Was it wise to align herself with someone like him, someone who could just as easily undo her? That evening transformed into a cacophony of thoughts, about ambition, about family, about loyalty. In translating the document, she faced the reality of Ethan's choices, their impact rippling through the community of Maplewood. Should she remain silent about discoveries she made in those symbols, or reveal them and risk severing the fragile bond they were forging? Driven by turmoil, productivity surged within her. She spent the night poring over books, her thoughts intersecting with agonizing resolve. It was not just translation, it was empowerment. Each word unlocked pathways leading to new directions for herself and for her siblings. As dawn broke, all the uncertainties coiled tighter around her heart. Sarah could sense a defining moment loomed, one that could disrupt not only her life, but also reshape an entire community. Did she have the courage to engage with Ethan, to challenge him over the implications of his business, or would she bury her voice under the weight of fear? The decision hung heavily in the air as she got on her bicycle, adrenaline surging through her. Would she tackle this conflict head-on, or retreat back into the shadows, letting opportunity slip away? Her resolve shattered the remnants of doubt. The moment of truth approached with each turn of the pedals, her path uncertain but blazing with potential. As Maplewood stretched before her, its possibilities suddenly felt alive. Ethan was waiting, but so were the truths that could tear them apart or bind them together. She would have to face him, but more than that, she would have to face herself. With a deep breath, she raced toward the mansion, the threshold of her future and imminent confrontation, tantalizingly close. The mansion loomed ahead, its imposing structure a stark reminder of the socio-economic divide Sarah had always felt. Each pedal stroke heightened her awareness of the chasm between her reality and Ethan's world. The reluctant acceptance of that very truth made her pulse quicken. Dread settled over her like a weight. Yet so did ambition, a heady mixture that propelled her forward. Upon reaching the entrance, a brief moment of hesitation gripped her, as if the very air around her conspired to make her turn and flee back to safety. But it wasn't just the fear of Ethan or the perilous world he inhabited that halted her. It was a confrontation with her own vulnerability. The prospect of unraveling the truth made her stomach churn. If she delved deeper into Ethan's affairs, she risked unearthing shadows of her own history, the familial burdens she carried like ancient armor. She steadied her breath, determined to pierce the veil of uncertainty. Inside, the scent of polished wood and fading elegance filled her senses, and she could hear the faint echo of her heartbeat. Ethan awaited her, surrounded by documents, but it was the cavernous silence that filled the space between them. "Ready to continue?" he asked, his voice even, but she caught the flicker of anticipation in his eyes. "I am," she replied, surprising herself with the steadiness in her tone. "But I want to talk about the symbols, about what they reveal." "I'm intrigued." Ethan leaned back in his chair, folding his arms, an enigmatic expression forming on his face. "What have you discovered?" The words spilled from her, risky and powerful. Cultivation, flourishing, these aren't just about growth in agriculture. They symbolize resilience, a kind of nurturing that goes deeper. It's about how to thrive in an environment fraught with challenges. As she spoke, she saw a shift in Ethan's demeanor. His interest sharpened, hinting at layers within him she could explore. "What else?" he encouraged, narrowing his gaze as if challenging her to peel back more than just the surface. "This isn't just history, Ethan. This could be about your present too," Sarah asserted. "These symbols could reflect choices concerning your business strategies and community interactions. It's a double-edged sword, one that could cut deep if mismanaged. You could either uplift or devastate." Ethan's brows knitted together, contemplating her insight. For the first time, Sarah noticed an awareness dawning in him, a realization that her perspective brought something vital to light. Yet still, the weight of his empire weighed heavily on her. If she nudged too far into his territory, would he see her as an ally or as a threat? "I appreciate your analysis, Sarah," he replied, each word deliberate and measured. "But do you understand the stakes? In this world, every choice reverberates beyond personal gain. If you act too boldly, there are consequences, ones that can haunt you." The tension between them crackled, new boundaries being negotiated. This was no longer merely a mentor-student relationship. They were colleagues in an uncharted territory, a duel of wits, wrestling for clarity amidst ambiguity. Sarah wrestled with the moral intricacies of the situation. Sensing the need to advocate for what she believed was right, she pressed on. "And if those consequences mean that people like me, like my siblings, could suffer from your decisions? Isn't it your responsibility to ensure prosperity outweighs profit?" He remained silent for a heartbeat, the air thick with contemplation. They were standing at the edge of a precipice. She could sense it. With a newfound clarity, she realized she could not just be a spectator. If she chose to redefine her role within this equation, she would have to instigate a shift regardless of the emotional toll it cast upon her. "Then perhaps it's time for you to grasp the reins," he said softly, but she saw a flicker of challenge in his eyes. In that moment, everything shifted as Sarah stood there, heart racing with the weight of possibility. She was not merely an observer anymore. This was about her journey of self-discovery, about stepping into a role where she took charge of her narrative amidst challenging dynamics. As their conversation deepened, Sarah knew she would need to unveil more than just the document's enchantments. The forthcoming revelations about Ethan's past and her connection to them could redefine both their futures. The true battle had begun, and the stakes had just intensified. What would Sarah uncover about herself and Ethan in the unearthing of hidden truths? The momentum of their conversation felt electric, charge bouncing between Sarah and Ethan like a hidden current. She recognized that exploring the depth of their dialogue opened doors to unknown territories within herself, both intellectually and emotionally. As she observed Ethan's concentrated expression, she begrudgingly acknowledged his impact on her journey toward forging her identity beyond the constraints of her upbringing. "I want to understand your decisions," she said, drawing a breath that steadied her resolve. "What influenced the paths you've taken with your business? You spoke about consequences. Can you share an example? What do you regret?" For a fleeting moment, Ethan's mask dropped, the facade of a confident entrepreneur cracking slightly. The vulnerability imbued in that instant made Sarah's heartbeat quicken. This was precisely the moment she had sought, a genuine engagement that could serve as a catalyst for growth. He leaned back, the shadows of old decisions playing across his features. "Regret is a bitter pill, Sarah," he finally said. "There was a project, an investment in a new venture that seemed promising. We overlooked the community's needs. The fallout was significant. Local businesses struggled, and I felt responsible for how my choices had tangible consequences for hardworking families." Ethan's admission cut through the air, unveiling a softness beneath his rigid exterior. Sarah noted the complexity in his voice, the weight of hindsight that was far more profound than she had anticipated. "That must have been difficult to live with," she said softly, her empathy flaring. "What could we have done differently?" he questioned, studying her. "You know these communities better than I do. What do you think?" The question lingered, a pressing invitation to contribute her voice, a chance for her to step into her emerging role. "Inclusive discussions are crucial," she replied with clarity. "Hearing from those affected before decisions are made strengthens your influence as a leader. You have resources. They should serve people, not overlook them for profit margins." Ethan's gaze remained intense, sparking a challenge in her thoughts. Could he genuinely consider her perspective? Or was this merely an intellectual exercise? The discomfort of the moment gripped Sarah, pushing her to confront the fear of inadequacy that clung to her like a shroud. Yet she stood firm in her belief. "Your wealth grants power, Ethan. But it is not an excuse to disregard the brighter paths that benefit everyone," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "You have the capability of crafting a future that aligns with the community's growth, and that's where true success lies." The tension shifted, the room appearing charged with their exchange. She couldn't help but wonder whether this reflected a shared ambition, even if marred by their differences. Every word they exchanged could either ignite or douse the flames of what could blossom between them. "I never thought about it that way," he said finally, a hint of admiration threading through his tone. "Tell me, Sarah, how do you envision a partnership that transforms ideas into tangible actions?" Caught off guard, Sarah took a deep breath, grappling with the call of his inquiry. This was a defining moment where she could either allow self-doubt to creep back in or seize the opportunity to assert her growing sense of agency. "Start by listening," she answered with renewed assurance. "Form a board that includes local voices. Create a pipeline where their insights influence business models, merging profit with purpose. If you made people feel valued, they would invest in your success too." Ethan watched her intently, a contemplation brewing within him. Something unspoken shifted in the air, a burgeoning respect entwining their roles. The prolonged silence hinted at a new chapter unfolding, poised on the precipice of change. But amidst the promise of transformation, an unsettling feeling coiled in her gut. What sacrifices might accompany this newfound alliance? What shadows from their pasts could resurface as they unearthed deeper truths? As Ethan leaned forward, captivated, Sarah recognized that the threshold of their journey had just elongated, raising questions both exhilarating and terrifying. The deep connection she had formed with him opened avenues of inquiry, rather than resolution, and she sensed a new layer of complexity forming. "Let's set up a meeting with the community stakeholders," Ethan suggested, his voice now imbued with strategic ambition. "We need to see what we can do, together." His proposition hung in the air, laden with promise yet tinged with uncertainty. For Sarah, the stakes had been raised. Visceral excitement thrummed beneath her skin as she considered the ramifications of this new partnership. How far would she be willing to go to enable real change? And would the challenges posed by their past threaten to unravel everything they could build? The answers lay ahead, waiting to be confronted. As Sarah sat in the dimly lit cafe, the air thrumming with the energy of their recent conversation, her mind danced restlessly between exhilaration and trepidation. Setting up a meeting with community stakeholders felt like stepping onto a tightrope strung over a chasm of uncertainty. She had emerged from a world where her voice had been stifled, yet now, she faced the challenge of using it as a tool for impact. Ethan's proposition echoed in her mind like a tuning fork struck too sharply. What did collaboration really mean? Was it simply the merging of ambitions, or would it unearth more complicated dynamics? People often held their truth tightly, and as she contemplated the gathering, the flicker of vulnerability in Ethan's eyes that day became both a comfort and a weight. She pulled out her notebook, the pages filled with scribbles of thoughts and ideas that had formed over the years, a montage of dreams draping the ink. Her heart raced as she envisioned a new strategy that could stir dialogue while effectively addressing gaps. She sketched a preliminary agenda for the meeting. This was her opportunity to advocate for a more inclusive approach, one that would blend discussions of ethics with strategy. Yet self-doubt lurked at the periphery, whispering incessant questions. Would they listen? Those who had been forcefully pushed aside often screamed in silence. How could she compel them to find their voice in the raucous arena of big business decisions? Just then her phone vibrated on the table, jolting her from her thoughts. It was Ethan, a simple question. Are you available to discuss logistics for the meeting tomorrow? The casual tone felt unexpected. Sarah hesitated. This was a starting point, and she could either rise to it or let her fear pull her back. Absolutely, she texted back, her fingers shaking slightly as she made the connection. The thrill of anticipation surged through her, layered with a sense of responsibility. She had to navigate the complexities of both Ethan and the stakeholders, two worlds she now interconnected. The adrenaline kept her moving forward, relentless and unyielding. The night that followed held an unusual quiet. Any semblance of isolation morphed into a sanctuary where she forged a plan. How could she articulate the plight of those she cared for, melding their voices with business acumen? At dawn she took a long walk, intending to clear her head. The sun shimmered above like a promise, illuminating her path as questions sparked within. What were the specific needs of the community? What problems could tangible business solutions rectify? Each answer led to another question, propelling her deeper into contemplation. By the time she returned home, she felt a clarion clarity. She would include stories, real accounts from the community that portrayed struggles alongside resilience. They deserved more than numbers. They deserved recognition and respect. Those narratives could guide Ethan's approach, making him realize that profit did not have to sap the richness from people's lives. Her resolve solidified. Sarah sat at her kitchen table ready to draft the email to Ethan. She considered the stakes and the inherent risk that intertwined with their collaboration. The vulnerability she felt in revealing her ideas was both thrilling and daunting. But there was no turning back. After meticulously crafting the message, she hit send, her heart racing from the act, filled with a mix of anxiety and determination. As she waited for a response, she couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling that grew stronger. They were not just embarking on negotiations. They were standing at the precipice of transformation, where her aspirations and his revealed secrets might collide. The air felt taut around her as she acknowledged that the true challenge lay beyond merely setting up a meeting. It resided in uncovering the deeper truths they both held, straddling the line between ambition and the reality of regret, clinging to their pasts. What could Ethan reveal that might alter her perspective? And how might these revelations influence the meeting, where their shared vision could either thrive or falter under pressure? The answers loomed just ahead, tantalizingly close yet fraught with uncertainty. Sarah steeled herself for the unfolding journey, determined to navigate the impending complexities that awaited her. The next morning, Sarah woke up with a knot of anticipation in her stomach. The sunlight streamed into her apartment through the window, bouncing off the walls, but the warmth of the day failed to pierce the trepidation that hung heavily in the air. The hours leading to her meeting felt like a slow march towards an invisible line. Each tick of the clock intensified her awareness of the significant responsibilities resting on her shoulders. With a deep breath, she inhaled the scent of coffee brewing in the kitchen, a ritual that usually soothed her. Today, however, the aroma felt like a reminder of everything that was at stake. Two worlds were on the precipice of a collision, and the responsibility to broker this intersection rested on her alone. As she sipped her coffee, she reflected on how she had arrived at this crossroads. Growing up, her voice had often blended into the background noise, a blend of fears from unfriendly environments. And yet, here she was, on the brink of stepping into the light, ready to take charge. It was time to dismantle the echoes of doubt that had once dominated her narrative. As she prepared her presentation materials, her fingers trembled with both excitement and the weight of vulnerability. The meeting was set for late afternoon. She arrived 15 minutes early, her pulse quickening as she stood outside the building where the stakeholders would gather. The sleek modernity of the architecture loomed before her, starkly contrasted against the warmth of her purpose. She committed herself to Project Calm Confidence, despite the uncertainty swirling in her mind. Once inside, Sarah set up her materials at the conference table, placing the heartfelt stories alongside facts and figures, hoping to balance emotional resonance with strategic insights. She practiced her opening lines under her breath, firming her resolve with each repetition. When Ethan arrived, he greeted her with an encouraging smile. "You look ready," he said, his casual confidence providing a fleeting sense of comfort. "Just trying to keep my nerves in check," she replied, forcing a smile. Their small talk facilitated a smoother transition into the meeting. As the stakeholders trickled in, Sarah took a deep breath and made eye contact with each one, silently urging them to embrace the forthcoming dialogue. When the discussion commenced, she guided the conversation, weaving personal stories into the broader context. She saw eyes widen in reaction to the narratives, an acknowledgement that often transcended the coldness of corporate statistics. But as the dialogue deepened, she felt the unmistakable tension simmering beneath their surface. One stakeholder, a seasoned negotiator, appeared skeptical. "We need results," he stated bluntly. "Stories are nice, but our bottom line is profitability." The challenge stirred something within her. Instead of shrinking from the confrontation, Sarah rose to it. "Profitability doesn't come at the cost of people," she stated, her voice steady but imbued with urgency. "By integrating ethical models into our strategies, we can achieve sustainable growth. If businesses want longevity, they must invest in their people and communities." The room fell silent, and Sarah could feel all eyes on her. Somewhere within, she rediscovered the conviction she had thought dormant in the shadows of doubt. The dialogues unfolded with unexpected complexity. She was not just advocating for supplies and strategies, but advocating for a rethinking of their collective values. As the meeting came to a close, the initial skepticism remained, but seeds of consideration had been planted. As they began to disperse, Sarah caught Ethan's gaze. He approached her, a mixture of admiration and curiosity in his expression. "You really held your ground," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. "Thank you," she replied, a quiet surge of empowerment washing over her. "But I'm not done yet. There's still a long way to go." But what she didn't realize was that the real challenge was still hidden among the discussions they had yet to hold. The momentum she had built could easily be undermined by old patterns or untold secrets lurking beneath collaborative efforts. The following day, a message from Ethan appeared on her phone, the subject line detailed but cryptic. "We need to talk about the meeting and something unexpected." Her heart raced. What revelations awaited her? Would they strengthen her cause or lead to a disillusionment she was unprepared for? The complexity of navigating personal dynamics had only just begun, and the stakes would escalate dramatically from here. Sarah's heart pounded as she read Ethan's message again, each word buzzing in her mind like a live wire. She couldn't shake the feeling that what awaited her conversation was more than just a recap of the meeting. It hinted at hidden layers of difficulty she hadn't yet confronted. Determined to wield her newfound resolve, she dressed in a suit that symbolized her transition from unsteady to assertive. The tailored fabric hugged her, reminding her of the power she yearned to embody. As she stepped into the bustling coffee shop where they had agreed to meet, she rehearsed what she wanted to convey, steadying her breath against the noise of clattering mugs and energetic chatter. When she saw Ethan seated at a corner table, his brow furrowed and his fingers drumming impatiently against the wood, she instantly recognized the tension radiating from him. "Hey," she said, sliding into the seat opposite him. "Thank you for coming," he began, a hint of gravity resting on his words. "I think it's important we debrief." get on the same page moving forward. Absolutely, Sarah replied, letting her professionalism shine through the rush of anxiety. But I sensed that there's more at stake here. Ethan leaned in closer. You're perceptive. The reaction from some of the stakeholders isn't just about the presentation. There's underlying tension related to the funding proposals I didn't expect. Funding? The weight of the word settled into her stomach. Are we in jeopardy? I wouldn't say jeopardy, but there's palpable discord about how budgets are allocated. Some stakeholders are resistant to ethical investments, fearing a drop in annual returns. His expression darkened as he studied the table. And I think personal interests may be in play here. The realization kicked like a strong current through her. Funding wasn't just numbers. It represented values, choices, and, ultimately, power dynamics. So, what's the plan? She asked, feeling the urge to push against the current of complacency. We need to galvanize support for the ethical initiatives. More than ever, your narratives could sway opinions, but we must also navigate the concerns of those primarily focused on profits. Ethan replied, meeting her eyes with sincerity. I believe you can connect with the others on a personal level, the impact of our work on real lives. The fire of determination ignited within Sarah as she processed his words. Then let's design a strategy that emphasizes not only the ethical, but also the economic benefits. I'll gather testimonials, case studies, whatever will bolster our position. Ethan nodded, impressed. Exactly. You have the ability to humanize our mission. Your voice can shift the conversation. Just as Sarah felt buoyed by the prospect of taking action, Ethan's expression shifted. But Sarah, there's something else. There's one investor whose influence could turn everything in our favor or against us. We need to align with them. Her heart dropped as she sensed the undercurrents of what he wasn't saying. Who is it? David Roth, Ethan said, his tone grave. He's been an ally in the past, but with his recent ventures he's become unpredictable. We need to charm him, and it won't be easy. Sarah's stomach churned. She recalled the name, an infamous figure with a reputation for ruthless negotiation tactics. Instead of retreating at the thought of facing him, a mixture of determination and trepidation settled in. This was her chance not just to push forward professionally, but to confront a challenge that could redefine her trajectory. Then let's prepare, she asserted, the weight of the challenge empowering her rather than dampening her spirit. I won't back down from this. As they discussed tactics, Sarah felt a shift within herself. She was shedding layers of uncertainty, discovering a resolve she hadn't known she possessed. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated, but so too was her readiness to meet them. Yet even as plans took shape, a nagging question lingered. What secrets did Roth hold that could derail their efforts? With the shadows of doubt lurking closer, she steeled herself for the confrontation ahead, unaware of the complexities and secrets that awaited her in the pursuit of a critical partnership. As they finalized their strategy, a knot of anxiety knotted in her stomach, one that seemed to whisper, "The real battle is only just beginning." As Sarah drove home, the city blurred past her window, each street lamp flickering like the doubts that danced in her mind. David Roth loomed in her thoughts, a titan in the industry with his own agenda, one that could just as easily crush her aspirations as elevate them. The adrenaline from the meeting with Ethan was wearing off, leaving her wrestling with the gravity of the situation. She needed more than a plan. She needed insight. Roth's reputation for intellect was as fearsome as his negotiation tactics. Just trying to charm him wouldn't be enough. She dug deep, recalling snippets of conversation and articles she'd read about him, those two-dimensional snapshots that were all anyone outside his world could grasp. Connections, she whispered to herself, considering the relationships he'd built, the alliances he might leverage. Arriving home, she flipped through her contacts, searching for anyone who might know Roth or, better yet, have a personal anecdote about him. Everyone she interacted with seemed to possess only vague, ambivalent stories. He was always spoken of in terms of his wealth or his contributions, but rarely in anything resembling a human trait. She laughed bitterly, knowing that if Roth had a weakness, it would be buried beneath layers of bravado. Finding it would require a different approach, That evening, Sarah sat in front of her laptop, a storm of research brewing. She scoured corporate reports, news articles, and social media profiles. Names with connections to Roth began to fill her notebook. There was a board member she might reach out to, a connection who could provide a softer entry point. But would she risk revealing her ambitions? Tension built in her chest as she wrote potential questions, crafting a persona that mixed curiosity with determination. With every word on her screen, she could feel the boundaries of her self-doubt begin to evaporate, replaced by a new resolve to understand Roth fully. A part of her even felt a flicker of excitement, a puzzle she was determined to solve. The following day, she approached Ethan with her findings. "We need to analyze Roth's alliances," she said, her voice steady. "He thrives on loyalty, but also thrives on competition. If we're to approach him, we should first understand whom he considers allies and who he views as threats. What stories does he tell himself?" Ethan nodded, impressed. "You're looking at this strategically. If we lay the groundwork based on that knowledge, we can approach him with tailored narratives that resonate. You could be the key to strengthening our proposal." Their planning sessions became intense personal workshops where strategies melded with Sarah's growing confidence. With every hypothetical scenario they explored, she sharpened her ability to navigate complex human interactions. She would need not only her business acumen but also a bit of psychological intuition to unravel Roth's intricate web. As the days turned into a well-fortified week of preparation, Sarah began to feel the weight of fear lift, replaced by a seriousness that made her more formidable. She embraced the complexity of what lay ahead. She was no longer just reacting. She was calculating her steps like a chess player. But then, during a late-night study session, she stumbled upon an article about Roth's recent ventures that hinted at conflict. He had made enemies, and tensions were brewing in the market. Could these hostiles be leveraged to sway him in favor of their proposal? A wave of realization washed over her, as she recognized that Roth's unpredictability might stem from unease rather than confidence. She had a lead, a vein to explore that could change the dynamics of their pitch. As she set her plans to delve deeper into the bloodlines of his affiliations, the stakes felt higher than ever. Facing Roth was no longer just a professional challenge, it was a test of her mettle. Curiosity spiraled within her, mixed with an eagerness to discover secrets that could serve as leverage. What game was Roth truly playing, and how could she turn it in her favor? The time was nearing. Soon she would need to put everything she had learned to the test. Her next steps could either catapult her into success or bring her crashing down. As the tension thickened, the looming question remained. What was the hidden truth about David Roth that could steer their future? Sarah spent the morning meticulously organizing her thoughts. The unfamiliar tension between eagerness and dread pulsed through her as she prepared for the day ahead. Every piece of research she had gathered was now more than just ink on paper. They were links in a chain that could potentially connect her to David Roth. She had created an intricate web of information, but every day increasingly felt like a countdown to a confrontation with him. The board member she had identified, Lila Tanaka, had a reputation not just for her intelligence but for her candor. Sarah knew that if she was to maneuver through Roth's formidable network, she needed allies. Reaching out to Lila felt like the right move, but the specter of hesitation loomed large. Would Lila dismiss her concerns? Would she view Sarah as merely a curious upstart? Or would she see the potential for collaboration? As she sat at her kitchen table contemplating her next steps, determination solidified within her. She refined her pitch as if she were rehearsing for the most important monologue of her life. "Lila, I've been analyzing David Roth's strategies and alliances. I believe there's an opportunity here for both of us." But as Sarah typed the text message to Lila, doubt pricked her thoughts. What if she misjudged in framing her intentions? Was she prepared to project competence and clarity amid her swirling insecurities? With a deep breath, she sent the message, and a thrill coursed through her. She was taking a tangible step towards her goal. As the hours crept by, Sarah focused on her project for the upcoming presentation, honing her slides meticulously. Simultaneously, she pored over insights about Roth's recent adversaries. Each click and scroll on her screen divulged narratives of rivalries, past alliances broken apart, and the whispers surrounding Roth's reputation. A sense of urgency fueled her. She needed to connect the dots effectively before the upcoming meeting with him. Finally, a response pinged on her phone, Lila's name lighting up the screen. "I'm curious. Let's meet tomorrow for coffee." Excitement surged, pushing away the lingering doubts. She had to ensure that when they met, she would be prepared to present herself as an equal, an adept player able to understand and perhaps manipulate the game they were all part of. That night, sleep came in fleeting waves, her mind racing through possible questions to engage Lila. The need to showcase her analytic prowess alongside her intuitive insights became more pressing. She imagined the coffee shop, the din of chatter around them. Would Lila be welcoming or skeptical? Would she see beyond Sarah's title to realize her potential? The next morning, Sarah stood before the mirror in her apartment, slowly adjusting her blouse. It required a conscious effort to maintain eye contact with her reflection. She practiced her introduction. "Sarah Matthews. I've been studying the market dynamics for our project." Each rehearsal boosted her confidence, but she still grappled with the residual doubts lurking in her mind. At the cafe, she spotted Lila seated in a corner, her presence commanding despite her unassuming attire. As Sarah approached, the initial exchanges were cordial, yet superficial. Each moment felt more charged with importance. Finally, the conversation turned toward Roth, and Sarah took a deep breath. "If we're to engage with him, I believe understanding his precarious alliances is essential. Have you noticed any patterns in his recent decisions?" Lila leaned in slightly, eyes narrowing in interest. "Absolutely. But what makes you so invested in this?" The question cut deeper than Sarah anticipated, but it presented an opportunity. The moment arrived for her to disclose her ambitions and the stakes involved. "I believe that there's a gap in the market," she stated, her voice steady. "My team and I can offer insight that could pivot his position if we play our cards right." The ensuing silence hung thick. Lila studied her, and Sarah's heart raced. It felt like staring into a crucial moment of decision. Did she dare be vulnerable, to expose the depth of her motivations? Before Lila could respond, the bell above the cafe door chimed and a figure entered. Sarah's eyes instinctively went to the door, and the shock froze her mid-sentence. It was David Roth himself. The world around her narrowed. He scanned the room as if hunting for someone. This was not just a coincidence. Fate had just thrown a wild card into her plans, and the stakes had just escalated. What would Roth do? And how would Sarah seize this unforeseen opportunity? As Roth strode into the cafe, an air of palpable power surrounded him. Sarah's stomach twisted into knots. The man who could make or break her ambitions stood mere feet away. A moment's hesitation gripped her, but Lila's voice broke through the tumult of her thoughts. "Sarah, if you want to connect, this might be your chance." With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah shifted her focus from panic to purpose. She recognized that this unforeseen moment was an opportunity to cultivate rapport, leverage insights, and potentially shift the narrative. Still, the challenge lay in measuring her approach carefully. It was a dance on the edge of a razor. Roth moved to the counter, ordering his coffee with an air of authority that bespoke his position. Sarah could feel the charged energy in the cafe, curiosity from other patrons underscoring the unexpected convergence of her worlds. As she collected her thoughts, she exchanged a nervous glance with Lila, who nodded ever so slightly. Determined to seize the moment, Sarah stood, smoothed her attire, and approached Roth with confidence. "Mr. Roth." His gaze snapped towards her, a flicker of recognition sparking in his eyes. "What can I do for you?" he asked, his voice steady, yet with an undercurrent of intrigue. "I'm Sarah Matthews, part of the team working on the community proposal with Ethan," she replied, extending her hand. "I wanted to discuss ideas on aligning our goals." He took her hand. His grip was firm. "Community proposal?" he echoed, interest piqued. "I've heard murmurings about a potential synergy. What's your vision?" The ball was rolling, and Sarah felt the electric pulse of opportunity charging her words. She plunged into her ideas with enthusiasm, framing how their ventures could connect on foundational values, profit sharing aligned with community welfare and sustainable growth. It's about more than just numbers, she emphasized. It's about creating a future that uplifts everyone involved. Your influence could be pivotal. Roth's brow furrowed as he considered her points. And how do you expect to not just present a vision but secure it? Those who seek to reshape the landscape always meet resistance, he replied, a challenge woven into his inquiry. For a heartbeat, fear threatened to cloud her resolve, but remembering the stories she had crafted, Sarah responded, by fostering partnerships, opening dialogues, aligning those who already share these convictions. We want to ensure that in paving our path, we don't tread on those who've built theirs. He studied her intently, the corner of his mouth twitching upwards. You have passion, I'll give you that. But passion won't save you from the hard choices. Sarah's confidence surged, determined to rise to his challenge. True, Mr. Roth, but those choices can be informed by understanding and collaboration. If you see the potential in what we're proposing, we can create something unprecedented. The noise of the cafe faded into the background as she held his gaze, sensing a subtle unraveling of the tightly wound persona he projected. There was an openness that promised a bridge of understanding if she could just navigate these murky waters. Let's explore that further, Roth declared, an unexpected agreement taking root. Meet with me next week. Bring your insights and we'll see how your voice could reshape the proposal in a way that resonates with the stakeholders. But make no mistake, if we venture down this path, you'll need to be ready for the consequences. Excitement coursed through Sarah as she realized she'd stepped into a new role that had once felt beyond reach. I won't back down, she replied, unwavering. I'm ready to fight for what matters. As Roth prepared to leave, he turned back to Sarah, the weight of their exchange palpable. You're ambitious, keep that fire, but remember, truth and influence come at a cost in this business. With that, he exited the cafe, leaving Sarah with a heart full of resolve and ambition. In the days that followed, as Sarah dove deeper into her research and prepared for her meeting with Roth, a sense of clarity solidified within her. She was no longer just a caretaker or delivery girl. She was an agent of change, a catalyst working to reshape her destiny and fight for her family's future. No longer was she defined by her circumstance. She was constructing a narrative of empowerment, weaving through complexities with adeptness. On the day of the meeting with Roth, Sarah stood before her notebook once again, a strategic plan in place. As she rehearsed her talking points, she felt a solid foundation beneath her. She pictured her siblings, motivated by their dreams, her driving force. This was her battle, and she was ready. When she entered the boardroom, it wasn't just about the facts and figures but a heartfelt presentation of collective stories, the needs of real families, woven among the professional discourse. Armed with insights and a fierce determination, Sarah engaged Roth and the stakeholders in something deeper than just business. As the meeting unfolded, she poured her convictions into the room, engaging them with raw humanity. We can build a future that thrives, not just financially, but that uplifts the community that has thrived on ambition and resilience for generations. It starts with audiences that are heard. Throughout the discussions, Roth's demeanor shifted. He leaned in, a smile creeping across his face as he considered their shared vision. Over the ensuing weeks, a partnership began to form, rooted in mutual respect and the understanding of their shared goals. Sarah had proved herself not only as a passionate advocate for her community, but as a formidable opponent navigating the tumultuous waters of corporate communications. Through the months that followed, both Sarah and Ethan's efforts bore fruit. Local businesses thrived, supported not just by their initiatives, but by the connections Sarah had forged. The community's voice transformed into a powerful force capable of resonating throughout the town, demonstrating the potential for real collaboration. Ultimately, they stood at the precipice of not just a business partnership, but a commitment to the fabric of the town. A tangible promise to reshape future endeavors in a way that integrated both profitability and purpose. Sarah had indeed cultivated her own flourishing path. In that moment, Sarah grasped the beauty in her journey. Where fear had once constrained her, energy now permeated her being. She had transcended her limits, emerging as a beacon of strength and wisdom. That day, as she pedaled home along Maplewood's familiar streets, the sun setting on the horizon painted the world in hues of glory. With each stroke of her pedals, she carried not just the weight of her family's dreams, but the transition of a community, firmly anchored in success, purpose, and transformation. It was time to share her journey, her hard-fought transformation. And now is your moment to step into the spotlight as well. You need to subscribe now to the channel to continue this incredible journey of personal growth and transformation. Don't leave it for tomorrow. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to nourish the algorithm and help bring more inspiring stories into the world. Comment below, sharing your reactions and theories about our amazing conclusion. And remember, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. It could change their lives. Your support fuels this mission.